Hello there, guys, and welcome back to my channel. And first of all, my apologies for being very late. Why is it lagging? Am I just lagging on my screen, or am I lagging on your guys' screen as well? Bobby, am I lagging on your screen?
Maybe about like a second.
All right. Well, I don't know why that is the case regardless. Hopefully that stops, and I'll figure it out in a second. Let me finish the intro first, ladies and gentlemen. I'll try to figure it out. My days. Technical difficulties left, right, and center right now. This is with the thumbnail and all sorts of things. My days. Here we are. Unfortunately, Chelsea have been knocked out of the UEFA Champions League after losing once again 2-0 to Real Madrid. I don't really know. I'm not angry today. It's just deflation, really. But at the same time, I'm like, meh. I didn't really expect anymore. Thank you, Isaac. I didn't really expect much anyway. If anything, this was much better than what I expected, if I'm honest, especially from once I saw the lineup. Compared to that, it's actually mind-boggling how much better this went than I expected it. But at the end of the day, we still sit here with 0 goals scored, 2 goals conceded, and we look like absolute mugs. What can you really do? Bobby, I'll ask you a second just so I can figure out this camera situation here. So what do you make of this? We're out now 4-0 on aggregate. But are you going to sit here and try to take the positives from it and say how much better it was than last week? Or was it at the end of the day over 2 legs just nowhere near enough? And the even more frustrating thing is that AC Milan, who we absolutely battered in the group stages, are in the semi-finals.
Yeah, I'm not going to be overly positive. There's not much positives to take from what I've seen from Chelsea in the year 2023 and over these 2 legs. I thought they tried, the first half, they played hard, which was good to see because a lot of these players in recent weeks, I haven't really seen the effort that I was hoping to see from a Chelsea player.
Yeah.
And, sure, I was disgusted when I saw the lineup too, but I mean, the first half, it didn't go horribly. We realistically should have been 1-0 us at halftime. Think about Koulibaly injuring his hamstring. Cucurella comes in, has the mistake. Chilwell gets the red card, and then Cucurella misses that chance too. I mean, basically, Cucurella is the reason we were down, 2-0. When you look at the first leg and the second leg, so. Yeah, not a lot of positives. No one really had a great game. I thought a few players were decent today, but overall just more of the same. It's been really, really frustrating year for everyone. It's pretty depressing, but, it's like I was going into this with the expectation that we weren't going to do anything. And then, I saw the lineup and I was just like, oh my, there's no hope. There's literally no hope at all. I thought, this morning when I woke up, in the back of your mind, you say, it's a Champions League game at Stamford Bridge. Maybe we can get an early goal and let's see what happens. But when I saw the lineup, and there was just no hope.
Exactly. That is that. I think the camera should be sorted now. So that is a positive. I'm just trying to figure out or get the lineup up on screen. And now I'm thinking about how did Enzo and Cover even play next to each other with Kante and Gallagher in front of them? I'm not even 100% sure how this was lined up. I'm trying to figure it out. You guys can then tell me whether you think I've had a right stinker in terms of how I've put this up. But yeah, I mean, I agree with you for the most part. It's a tough one. At the end of the day, it just felt like, okay, it felt like we had the one thing that I can give this lineup is that I think we had Real Madrid confused. At least that's what it seems like. I don't know. Obviously, they go into this game 2-0 up. They don't need to do nothing. They just, sat there and see what these guys do. Then we had a couple of chances, Kante early on, and then a little bit later, and then obviously Cucurella, the huge one just before halftime. Yeah, it was all right, but the lineup, like you say, honestly, I mean, I do have to revert a little bit after quite how extreme I was initially in terms of my reaction to the lineup. That clearly, judging by how it played out in the end, was a bit too harsh. But let me bring it up on screen. And by the way, Aaron will join us. Clutch might join us. I'm not 100% sure yet, but they are on their ways home, basically. So I'm not sure if you guys would agree, but basically, it was at times it was kind of a 4-3-3, with Kante behind and Gallagher behind Havertz. Kind of Gallagher was just behind Havertz, but more on the left, and then it was a midfield. Whatever it was, 3-5-2, 3-5-1-1, and then Kante pushed up and Gallagher shifted to the left, whatever you want to call it. Cucurella, left wing back, Reece James, at right wing back. I'm very intrigued whether people are, I don't know, like Cucurella. On the one hand, I'm like, you absolute moron. Last week, you cost us the red card. Today, you don't score. And then what is your pressing? But then also Chalobah while you're sliding. But yeah, the 1-0 killed it. Whether they then made it 2-0 or not, honestly, it didn't matter. Like, to me, it genuinely just didn't matter. But yeah, it's so frustrating. Like, when you set up a team like this, and then you play all right, like you press high, you have the energy, you play hard, like you say, you win the ball back in high positions. But then every time you have a chance, it falls to your left wing back, who's all season played at centre back or defensive left back, or it falls to Kante. Like, well, later on, Rudiger had a chance, but that was offside. And Felix had that one where he was trying to get through the box. But, you know, Havertz didn't really have many chances. And not because I think Havertz did much wrong, if I'm honest, but we'll talk about that later, obviously. But it just, we're just not good enough. Like, let's be honest. Like, at the same time, I'm like, yeah, we can be angry and talk about, how bad and how shit and how embarrassing. We just played Real Madrid. We got absolutely battered by Brighton. We got battered by Wolves. We've won 3 games in 2023 in the Premier League. You know, like it's almost like a little bit ridiculous if we sit here and now shout and scream about this one. At the same time, I'm like, I understand, because we want to win. We want to do well in the Champions League. We want to do, you know, to somehow have some positive of this season. And that unfortunately wasn't to be, because that is also part of the truth. Madrid certainly didn't have to go to their fullest. They didn't last week and they didn't today. Obviously, it could have cost them, because if Kante or Cucurella take their chance and if we go 1-0 up, I'm not saying we necessarily win it and go through, because they can just step up the gears. But with the atmosphere, with the adrenaline that we would have then had in this situation, I think it would have at least been spicy and interesting and dangerous for Real Madrid. So this might have also cost them severely. But at the end of the day, it just wasn't enough. And at the end of the day, I'm like, I always go into a Champions League season, and I know obviously we want to win it. But, you know, just look at the draw this time round. Like I say, AC Milan, who we were in a group with, who we battered on both home and away, with Graham Potter. It's not like that was still with Tuchel or something. That was with Potter. They're now in the Champions League semi-final. And this is why before the season starts, and that goes for every season, I'm always like, I want us to go to the quarters, and everything after the quarters is kind of partly luck of the draw, depending on form, whatever it is, right? And luck of the draw, I mean, look at the other side of this draw. Like, it is, you know, you couldn't explain it any better, really. So when we get knocked out in a quarterfinal, I'm never going to lose my shit about that. Do you know what I mean? But at the end of the day, it's just not enough. It's just not enough, and we aren't good enough at the moment, and we just need to restart, really. And just try to kick on and try to, you know, try to make something positive, because this season has been, other than a little Champions League run, it's been the worst season ever. Literally, like, this is the first time in not 5 years, the first time that we lost 5 games in a row since 1993 or whatever. Like, you know how bad that is. My God. Thank you, Clutch, for joining us. I appreciate it very much. What can you say after this? Like I put on the thumbnail, we tried and we failed. But I guess it was better than last week, but it's not enough. Like, it's just not enough. You can't do what we did last week and then come to the bridge. Yeah, played all right, really, especially like until we conceded, obviously. But then if all your chances are like, because of how you line up, or to Cucurella and to Kante. But at the same time, I'm like, do I trust many of our forwards to score chances that much more? More than Cucurella and Kante, yeah, but not that much either. Do you know what I mean? So I don't even know anymore. It's, like I say, it's not anger. It's just deflation today, because it's also sad the fact that, you know, who knows when we'll be in Europe again, you know? I mean, I think next year, well, not next season, but the season after we'll qualify again next year. But it's never nice when you know you're not going to qualify for the Champions League again next year to then go out. Like, the same whenever it's happened in the past. It always stings a little bit, doesn't it, Clutch?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, I don't have much to say, because I don't know what to say. I mean, I said last week that Madrid you were gonna need to show Ancelotti something he didn't see coming to kind of get this thing started again. But at the end of the day, it didn't work, because the players that the chances fall to are the players that aren't going to finish it. I said in the group chat that, finishing is something that you can't teach. If people have it or they don't, you can't really improve on it. Sometimes, sure, you get a little bit more confident and that helps a little bit, but natural calmness in front of goal just doesn't happen. And, Kante, I can't believe I said it like that. Kante and Cucurella are just players that they're not confident in front of goals. And those are the players that the chance falls to. I think at the end of the day, a lot of the mistakes from the season should be learned upon. Big squad needs to be cleared out in the summer. Yes, we can agree on that, Bob. But at the end of the day, it's not where we're at now. And I think this game was just set up in a way that, it looked good at the beginning because it seemed to work. But once Madrid figured out what to do, they just kind of held on and countered. And it's what they do best at the end of the day. So at the end of the day, there's not much else to say other than we came up against a good Real Madrid team. But at the end of the day, we got it wrong.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, that is an interesting question because obviously all of us were like furious at this lineup when it came out. Me and Bobby were just talking about it as you joined. Thank you for the donation, by the way, the Blue Lounge. You say, should we have even sacked Potter? Just kidding. Well, I do not think that we would have lost 4-0 on aggregate with Potter, but I do think we would have lost regardless. So at the same time, I don't know. Like today, there was like, on Saturday against Madrid in the first leg after Wolves, I was furious because we were just so disgracefully bad. Today, we weren't disgracefully bad. We were still not good enough, but we weren't disgracefully bad. And I don't know. Honestly, I just don't know anymore at this point. Bobby, the lineup, we touched on it. I guess, actually, Clutch, I wanted to ask you about that. Sorry. My head's gone at the moment. Like you say, it kind of worked, but was our reaction then unjustified when it came out because of kind of how it worked? But because with our reaction, we expected to be like absolutely awful, have 0 shots on target, have 0 shots full stop, and be lucky if we don't concede. Like it was certainly better than that expectation, but it just wasn't enough to score. The problem is, and Pice tweeted that, and then I replied. You clearly saw that reply. I'm like, well, yeah, but if we played all the others and were like more, had more offensive players, would the whole rest of the idea have worked as well? And also, when you see, like, we literally played a game where it felt like we built the whole thing around Reece James, but Reece James really wasn't on it today. So it's like the touches were not there. He clearly isn't fully fit. I mean, he was knackered after half an hour and then, needed to let Fofana sprint down the line on a moment. I'm not sure if Reece had like a crazy sprint just before that or whatever, but still you can see that he's not fit. The same probably applies to Thiago Silva, but obviously he plays a position where it's going to be less obvious. But at that point, I'm like, what could we have done that would have worked? Because everything I'm like, maybe, but I feel like no matter what we would have tried, I'm not even sure if anything would have been successful, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. I'm not sure. I mean, it's Real Madrid. They're the current holders of the Champions League title, and we have been horrendous for months, year and a half. We've been horrendous, creating chances, taking our chances, everything. So I feel like the lineup was a mistake. Like, it didn't work, but it went better than I expected it to, because just how effective the pressing was and how we were able to keep the ball in the Real Madrid half, it was kind of surprising, but that worked decently. And we should have scored a goal. Cucurella has to bury that chance. If Ben Chilwell doesn't get the red card because of Cucurella, he scores that goal. It should have been taken first time. Like, Cucurella delayed the shot. Chilwell takes that first time and probably bangs it in the back of the net, and who knows what happens after that. But still, we'll
probably lose 3-1, but
fair enough. But yeah, it was a mistake, but it wasn't as bad as maybe we all thought it would be. I think that's the fair take on it.
No, I agree. Aaron, thank you for joining us. Appreciate it very much, bro. We're all sat here kind of, I'm not sure whether the same will apply to you, but it's it's not really anger today. It's just deflation. I feel like I said this for the third time. This would have some people join at different times. But like I say, it's just deflation. I don't think today was so bad to an extent that I have to sit here furious, like the Brighton game, like the first leg, like the Wolves game. But fact of the matter is, it wasn't enough. And I also don't want to sit here and just say, oh, it's Real Madrid. It happens. Like, I do want to have the expectation, the standard to do something and to win. But it's just difficult. Like, after the first leg happened, if you look at the second leg on its own, beating Real Madrid more than 2-0 or 2-0 and then take it to extra time penalties with our form, with the form our players are in, with our manager, that was almost never gonna happen.
Yeah, I just want to apologize. I got stuck in traffic, so apologies. But the thing is, on Twitter, all I saw was like the 1% chance, 99% faith. I had 0% in either because I've watched Chelsea play this season, so I had 0 of either. So I can't even sit here and be angry. Like we didn't even play badly. I don't think. I think we actually played pretty decent, but we look like the better team out there. And in theory, with the sort of chances that we had, you would have thought that we could have at least come away. Forget the tie in itself in 2 legs. Even just this leg, we could have actually come away with something had we been more clinical. Well, that's the root cause of all of our problems. We're not clinical. We don't take our chances. We say the same shit every week on here. Essentially every week. You can copy and paste most of the streams that we do, and you would just be saying the exact same shit. So it's not even. I wouldn't even say for me it's deflation because it was very expected. Like, I didn't expect us to do anything. If anything, I'm surprised that we actually played as decently as we did. But yeah, I expected nothing. I thought we had chances in the game that we should have taken. I think if we take a lot of these chances that we had at the times that they came, the game could have been different. The tie potentially could have been different because, say, for example, at 0-0, when Cucurella has that chance, if he puts that in, suddenly it's 2-1 and they're under a bit more pressure because they're not as comfortable as having a 2-goal lead. So all in all, there are surprisingly, there's positives to take from the game, I would say. But ultimately, we still make fundamental mistakes and we don't take the chances that we have, which is why we're in the situation that we are. And Frank Lampard's now 4 from 4. And that's not even a positive 4 from 4. It's 4 games, 4 losses. So yeah, I don't see this going uphill anytime soon. So yeah, it's the same shit as usual, really.
No, exactly that. And Pepe here with the super chat, appreciate it very much. He says 5 out of 25, 26 if we include that friendly against Aston Villa after the World Cup since November 6th. We've won 5 out of 25 competitive games since November 6th. That is so disgraceful. And this is why, like, it almost annoys me a little bit where I'm like, see a few people in the chat saying like, the standards. It's not the standards of the football club or of us, but it's the standards that have been set this season. It's the standards that are the reality, There's one side of the coin where you're like, well, our standards need to remain what's the ideal way, but the ideal way isn't the reality of this season. And the reality of this season is that our current manager is 4 out of 4 losses, like Aaron's just said. And the one before that was, like 5 out of 21 since November 6th, because Frank hasn't won one yet. So, So I don't know. I know how you said, Aaron, it's not deflation on your end. I agree. It's less deflation about the result or the performance. It's more deflation about just, this is it. Like, we knew it was going to be it, but obviously this one was still to go. And yeah, we knew it was done since last week. We knew that because realistically, we all knew we weren't going to turn this around. Let's be honest. But this was still the last bit where anything was there to fight for, play for, anything. Now it's just done. Now we've got, I don't even know how many, 6, 7, whatever Premier League games left where there's nothing to play for. I cannot imagine it getting any better in those. It will probably get worse and worse than it was against Brighton, unless we play players that have something to fight for or whatever. But at the end of the day, it's just that's the part that deflates me. No Europe next season. Season is done. Nothing won. Nothing left to fight for. It's just deflating because
I think the biggest deflating thing about everything is this is our last Champions League game for a good few years, and they couldn't even get the anthem playing in the stadium. So you can't even go out with a bang and say we heard the Champions League anthem for the last time. So
I didn't even clock that.
They fucked up the anthem playing in the stadium, so we didn't even get the anthem for our last game. So yeah, that's more deflating than anything else, really.
What? That's not even true. Havertz didn't start last game, did he?
No.
No, so it's not even true. Anyway,
it wasn't even on the bench, remember?
Yeah. I would prefer if you had a different name, sir, but give it the benefit of the doubt. And just not read out. Cucurella killed the game in both the ties with the totally dumb rush-ins. Does he got any brains? Jeez. Yeah, it's a difficult one. We'll talk about obviously the goal we conceded in a little bit, I guess, as we get to Chalobah and Cucurella. But Clutch, just one more time. What are the words that you can find like on the back of this? Like, is it like where do we go now, right? Because like what happens the rest of the games for this season? Like until now I'm like, okay, interim. But what the fuck is an interim manager gonna bring for these last few games now? The only thing that would be helpful now is the manager for next season already, because then the current players could already almost see it as preparation for next season. But because we have a different manager right now, it's not even that. So it's like, what now? Let alone what needs to happen in the summer.
I mean, I wouldn't bring a new manager into this right now. I'd reset.
Me neither, but
screw that. Like, hope Lampard gets one win. That's all you can do. One win or a draw. That's all he needs to do. Just get us out of relegation zone. That's it, and then we'll be all right.
We're 11th. Not relegation zone, quite.
We're going to be if we don't win a game.
Absolutely.
Win or draw a game. Just get us to that 40 points that we need, I think for me, we need to look to see how do we balance this team better. That's what this team is missing. If you look at like most teams, if you don't have a clinical striker, which we don't, then you're going to have two wingers on the sides who are going to be clinical and they're going to score your goals, while your striker is going to draw center backs out of position. We don't have that. We don't have a DM that's going to allow our creative talent, Enzo, to push up the field to create like he needs to. We don't have that. It's things that the ghosts of our past that we decided, a couple seasons ago when we asked for a DM. Well, let's not get a DM. And then Tuchel papered over cracks by making a formation that allows us to not have a DM per se, but we still got the best out of the team. I think it's more about how do we find the balance in the next couple months and how do we get the players that we need to get out so we don't have such a bloated squad. And that's how I think we start to turn this thing around. This season, it's hope and a prayer at this point, in my opinion.
Yeah, other than like hoping that we don't get relegated, it's not even hope and prayer, because what do you hope and pray for? Like I say, other than not getting relegated, which I still think that won't happen, simply because I don't think the teams in the relegation zone will score enough points to catch us, if I'm being perfectly honest with you. Now they could, but I personally don't see that happening. Even if we don't get a single other point, I don't think that happens. But regardless, I'll bring that super chat up again when we get to it. Let's just get into this, Start with Kepa. He nearly cost us a goal when he passed it straight to the Madrid player, but then he actually made a good save from that cross. He doesn't save those often, so, maybe he needs to pass to the opponent a few more often. But otherwise, he didn't really have many difficult saves to make. He had made a couple of saves, but none of them were particularly difficult. So I don't think you can do anything about any of the goals. I'm not sure if any of you agree, but disagree with that. But I'd probably just give him a simple 6. I don't think any of the saves he did make were difficult enough to push it higher than that. And he didn't make any. And I don't think that mistake, especially because he cleaned it up himself, is enough to push him lower than a 6. I just go 6. Bobby, would that be about your assessment as well, or would you differ?
Yeah, I thought he was a 6. I thought he had some decent positioning on the shots that were really simple. I do think on the first goal, he didn't do well. I think it was more on Chalobah and Cucurella. But in my opinion, Kepa should have came out. Like when Chalobah slid in and Rodrygo had to go around him wide, I think if Kepa would have rushed out there, he might have been able to.
But can't he then just chip it over Kepa?
Maybe, but I'd rather force him to do that than what Kepa did. And then also, even on the shot in that situation, he like lunged with his knee, where, you're a goalkeeper, dive with your hand, try and make the save.
Honestly, my brain kind of turned off after Chalobah went down. So everything you say could be spot on here. The goal in my mind, the ball went over the line as Chalobah slid past the ball. So you might be absolutely right.
I still thought he was a 6. Like, he had a decent game. Like, the second goal, that's not on him at all. I just thought on the first goal, he maybe could have done things a bit differently and could have, rather than being passive and kind of just waiting for things to come to him, he could have took initiative and either rushed out or dove or just been a little bit better to save the game, like to keep us in it. Because once that goal went in, it was over.
Fair enough. Aaron, do you see it that way as well, that maybe Kepa could have done a little more on that first goal? Or was it just, well, we got countered, Cucurella pushed? I still don't understand why he decided to do that there and then, but I still don't think... I still think it's easy to purely blame this goal on Cucurella, because like I said, he's the left wing back. It's very common, no matter even if the left wing back doesn't do anything wrong, that the left-sided centre back needs to come out when this kind of through ball happens. Do you know what I mean? So like this is not an outrageous thing. I know people like to blame Cucurella instead of our homegrown players because we've now made Cucurella the scapegoat. And he didn't do well in that press, 1,000,000%. But that has nothing to do with Chalobah deciding to slide tackle there for absolutely no reason. Well, slide tackle if you get the ball, but don't if you're not. Do you know what I mean? Like, he had enough pace. He was enough in the way that he could have stopped him. You know, the best thing probably would have been to let Rodrygo play around him and then block Rodrygo. And then that maybe gives Kepa a chance to just collect the ball. But what can I even say? But Aaron, do you think Kepa could have done better in, like, after that? After, you know, Chalobah got past and, you know, when the ball was played across, or what would you give him?
If I'm being completely honest, I mentally checked out after I saw Chalobah slide and not get the ball. So I wouldn't say my mind was really with it. So I don't know, as per se, whether Kepa could have done any better. I don't think he could have, but I may be wrong on that. I'll have to watch it back and see myself. But in terms of the second goal, I know for a fact he definitely couldn't. So he had Valverde running through, Rodrygo's wide open right next to him. Of course, he's going to pass it across goal, and you can't do anything about that. But in terms of the saves he made, nothing really that difficult. He did make a few good saves, though. Like, I'm surprised at the fact that he was actually decent with the crosses as well. So I'd give him a 6, though, because we still did concede 2 goals and lose. So I can't really give too much better than that.
Yeah, there you go. How many saves did he make here? So it made 1 diving save, apparently. 3 saves in the box, acted as a sweeper once. Look at all these stats here. 10 recoveries, well, more than that in midfield last week. But yeah, and 4 just normal saves type thing. So yeah, I think a 6 is fair. Clutch, would you agree for that? Would you agree with that? Do you think he could have done any better on anything?
No, I mean, if I remember correctly, he went across goal and then it came back and it fell to him, right? On the first goal.
And then it fell to him. Fell to who?
Rodrygo. Rodrygo didn't just go around Chalobah.
No. He didn't. He then crossed it.
So at the end of the day,
I missed it. Then it fell to Vinicius, who tried to square it. I'm not sure if he tried to square it to Rodrygo, or if he actually tried to square it to Benzema. But in the end, he squared it back to Rodrygo, and then he scored. Yeah, no, of course.
So at the end of the day, like, Kepa could have done nothing to that, because if he would have done it, then it just would have been an open goal for the other people. But I just would have given him a 6. I don't think he was terrible. I don't think he was at fault for anything.
Fair enough. All right, let's get to these defenders then. 3 at the back. I want to start with Fofana, because even though he had moments where I'm like, you could have done better there, I want to give a little bit of a shout out to him. And we were lucky in the first half. Madrid didn't have that many chances until they scored, but they had 1 big one in the first half. And Vinicius kind of just shot wide. Like, if any of our players missed that, we would have been screaming at them for the next 3 weeks. It was outrageous that he didn't score that, because Fofana was just nowhere near. But other than that, I want to give a shout out to Fofana. Not necessarily that I'm going to give him the craziest high rating, but my guy was trying hard today. Like, I know, Potter said this, everything, they gave everything, and so we kind of ruined that now. But he really did, because he had Reece James next to him who couldn't even run for more than 10 minutes straight. And he had to take a break for 2 minutes and then go again. And that was all game long. Like, Fofana at some point was like, okay, Reece ain't running. Well, at the end, Reece was in midfield. But even before that, Reece ain't running the channel anymore, ain't running the wing anymore. Well, I'm just going to sprint up and down that wing as long as I can. And that's what he did. So shout out to him. Fair play to him. Do I remember him doing anything particularly wrong, especially when I compare it to what he did against Vinicius last week? No. So I'd probably just give him a 6. But I mean, would you agree with that, Bobby? Would you give him higher than a 6? Maybe it's just I don't know. Don't know if I want to give him any higher than that.
I thought he was pretty good today. I would probably say a 6.5. I think he was a little better than average today.
Yeah, I mean, if I look at some of these stats, I mean, the duels ones aren't that amazing. Aerial duels, he won 0 out of 2. Ground duels, 4 out of 9. Isn't great, but not like absolutely dreadful. But then we get to some good stats. Tackles, 2 out of 3. 6 recoveries, 4 out of 4 accurate long balls. Pass accuracy was 98% with 49 out of 50 completed. Maybe 6.5 is fair. You know, maybe it is clutch. Do you think it is? Or what would you give Fofana?
What is fair? What?
6.5 is what Bobby gave him.
I'd probably go for an average 6. You know what? I'm going to give him the 6.5. You know why? Because I watched him full sprint down the side while I watched James walk halfway down the thing. So yeah. I'm going to give him that 0.5 extra.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I mean, Michael was clearly not happy. He says Fofana is a joke. Would you like to elaborate? That would be nice. Aaron, 2 6.5s. Do you agree with that? I mean, Chronicles of Decay even says 7. Would you go quite as high?
I feel like I was watching a different game. I'm kind of confused because I genuinely, unless I was watching something else, I thought Fofana was our man of the match. The way that he was playing right centre back, you would have thought he was playing as a wing back. The way he was bombing up and down the pitch, that guy was putting so much effort in today. It was crazy. Like, I saw him bombing up in places. Okay, let me not use that word because they might censor this. But I saw him sprinting up and down the channel like a wing back and getting crosses in. And I just thought, I don't know who this is because he was playing right centre back, and then at times he was at right back, and then he was playing like a right wing back. And it was, honestly, I was very impressed. Although we conceded 2 goals, I don't remember him doing anything wrong. I thought he was pretty decent. So I would have gone for like a 7.5.
A 7.5, my days. I've never seen Aaron this positive even when we win a game. My days.
It's the delusion. I'm telling you, us losing is just getting to my head. It's turning me a bit cuckoo, but yeah, I genuinely thought it was our man of the match.
I wish it turned Cucurella less cuckoo, but you know. But apparently, Fofana is the joke was meant in a good way. Maybe.
I would honestly agree with the man of the match. I'm just not going much higher than that. So
yeah, no, I'm in agreement as well. But like, who can I? I mean, at the same time, like, how much did Kovacic and Enzo? I mean, other than the Kovacic misplaced the first 2 passes of the game that he had, how much wrong did they really do?
I thought Kovacic was terrible.
Did you?
The fact that he is still on the pitch is even more of a joke than Frank Lampard as a manager.
How Enzo got hooked and Kovacic didn't. I want to see how.
Kovacic should have been off at halftime, 100%.
We'll get to Kovacic later because I'm very intrigued what exactly you thought made him that bad. Which is absolutely fine. Obviously, maybe that was just something I didn't necessarily see. But I agree that Fofana was probably the best of the lot. I just don't know how much worse or better the others because it was just such a weird game where Madrid obviously didn't need to do much more. So, you know, it's kind of then difficult to judge, really. Unfortunately, that's how these second games kind of go. But if you go for a 7.5, Aaron, I guess 7 overall it shall be. Fair enough. Fair enough. Let's get to Thiago Silva then. I mean, his pass accuracy was a lot worse than Fofana's with 84%, 38 out of 45, which is also less than Fofana. So it's not just, you know, I don't necessarily remember him misplacing so particularly many. Also, he apparently only attempted 4 long balls, 2 of which were complete. So, like, you can't say he just played so many long balls. That's why he gave the ball away. But, yeah, I mean, ground duels 1 out of 3. It was just like this typical type of game where the central centre-back doesn't actually have to do that much defensively because they were countering, and then when they counter, they obviously used the wide areas, so they didn't really get into the middle too often where Thiago had that much to do. And then when he pushed out from the back, he did good in terms of aggressive defending. But again, I can't say he did anything wrong, so I just give him a 6, I guess. Aaron, what about you?
Barely noticed he was on the pitch, to be honest, so it's just a standard 6.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a pretty similar explanation from my end. Clutch. Same for you, or did you notice anything that would sway the rating either direction?
No, I mean, I'm going to give him a 6 purely because I felt sorry for him. I mean, his face after the second goal went in was just one of the saddest things I've ever seen in my life. I mean, he's like, I'm 37. I could have retired, and here I am doing this. So I'd just give him a 6. I didn't really know.
Bobby, you in agreement with that as well, or?
Yeah, I thought he was a 6. Didn't have any issues with his defending today. He did a good job a few times handling their pressure when we were in our own half. Yeah, I thought he was pretty solid today, and I think a 6 is his fair rating.
Fair enough. Let's get to Trevor Chalobah then, because Trevor Chalobah is a tough one for me today, because I actually thought Trevor was, and I'm going to shock people with this, very good outside of the shocking mistake. But I actually think other than the mistake, I was really impressed in a way. Pass actually was good, 92%. Tackles 2 out of 4. Ground duels 5 out of 7. Aerial duels 1 out of 2 at least. Especially with how comfortable he was on the ball. I know he had that one switch ball to Reece, which he put like 30 yards away from Reece, and Reece had to sprint to keep it in play. But I still think outside of that mistake, he was very good. But that mistake is just such a bad mistake. You just can't do that. Like you just can't do that. Like, sure, we can give him a little bit of an excuse. Like, oh, he hasn't barely played since God knows when, since the World Cup, really. But no. You've made it to Chelsea Football Club. You've been at Chelsea Academy since God knows how young you are. I guarantee that plenty of coaches have drilled into him that you don't go to the ground in that situation. And he just shouldn't have. So even though I think he was, because that's the one that killed us, at 0-0, if we get one, even if we get one in the 85th minute, if we get one, it's possible. But once we were 1-0 down, we were dead and it was done. Even though, to be fair, the players did try to keep going, but even didn't matter, right? Let's be honest. But now I'm not sure what I want to give Chalobah, because like I say, I actually thought he was very good outside of the bad mistake. But how much lower for the rating do I go because of the mistake? That's my issue.
2.
Like, I'm thinking, do I go 4? Do I go 5? It just seems a 4 seems harsh for one mistake when I thought pretty much everything else he did well.
I mean,
should I hope you?
I'm gonna say 5 to start with, and I'm gonna see what you guys say, and maybe you can come into something else. Clutch, I think you try to start talking.
I'm going to be more nice because I did say 2. I'm going to give him a 3. I mean, it killed the tie. Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah, no, I agree. But did you think he was good outside of the mistake? And is it just the mistake that makes it this bad? Or do you just disagree that he was any good?
Nope. I thought he was decent, to be honest. I didn't think he was terrible. There was one time when he came out and made a wonderful interception at the midway point and then kept sprinting. But it's not good enough. I mean, that mistake is literally, you make that in the under 18s. You don't make that top level. It's one of the worst mistakes you can make. Like, it makes 0 sense. I know people are going to blame Cucurella. It's not on Cucurella. It's 100% on Trevor Chalobah. Him and him alone. It's just,
maybe we give Cucurella up 1%, but the other 99.
Because if you even stay up, you have a better chance. Like, the worst thing you could have done is gone to ground, and and he chose the worst option out of all.
Well, he probably thought he was going to get the ball. He just obviously didn't. That was the problem. But yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. Maybe I lower mine to a 4. I know I said very good, but that was more in terms of what I necessarily was expecting rather than that I necessarily thought he was absolutely amazing. I was more thinking outside of the mistakes, like a 6, 6.5 type thing. And I know I made it sound a bit better than that, I'm aware. But yeah, just to clarify a little bit. But I'll take it down to a 4 because, yeah, no, you are right. He did cost us. Well, but did he cost us? Well, cost us was last week. Like, let's look at our finishing. Yes, it killed it then, but chances are it would have just finished 0-0 if we never conceded. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, it didn't really cost anything. It just killed the game early. But I'll give him that 4. Bobby, what about you? Do you agree with what I said, even though I slightly worded it too nice in terms of how very good he was? But I thought he was good outside of the mistake. Do you agree with that? And regardless of whether you agree or not, what rating would you give him?
It depends on if you think good and decent mean the same thing. I think he was decent outside of the mistake.
Yeah.
I don't know if
I don't really know what I mean, to be honest, mate.
I thought he was decent outside of the mistake, but yeah, I just think with the mistake and how big it was, I mean, I think it also falls on Cucurella in that situation too, especially if you look at just the screenshot. He's up pressing 2 Real Madrid players, 30 yards beyond where he should be.
He was pressing their centre back. I think it was Militao who he tried to press. Why would the wing back be pressing the centre back?
Yeah, and he's pressing, and Kovacic, who's the midfielder, it looks like Kova's looking at Cucurella like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, Kova wasn't pressing. No one else was even pressing in that situation. Just
That's probably why Cucurella did it, because he's like, well, why the fuck are none of you lot pressing? But that doesn't make it any better.
Running up there, vacating his space. So, I mean, but yeah, I mean, Chalobah in that situation, he handled it poorly. I would have hoped he would have stayed on his feet. And for that, yeah, I thought he was probably around a 6 performance. But then with that mistake, I think a 4 is a fair rating for him today.
All right, fair dues. Aaron, finished that Chalobah one off for us then. What did you make of him outside of the mistake? And how much lower, I guess, does that mistake take the rating for you?
I don't think you're going to like my rating, so I'll say what I need to say first. Outside of the mistake, he wasn't that bad, but that's all I'm going to say on that. I would give him a 0, and I think I give him a 0 because that's schoolboy defending. You don't do that. We had momentum. We were actually doing all right, and you killed it all with one bit of stupidity. And I genuinely do believe that if he didn't do that, we would have had, we were doing very well until then given the circumstances. Obviously, we're 2-0 down, but you have to look at the game subjectively. And we'll put the first leg aside for a minute. We were 2-0 down on aggregate. We know that, but with the way that we were playing a lot better than Madrid, and we were starting to build up a little bit of momentum, had a few chances, and then Chalobah completely destroyed it. And I'm sorry, that is unforgivable. That mistake is unforgivable. You do not do that on a football pitch. You're a high-level professional. You're playing in the biggest league in the world, and you're playing in the biggest competition in the world, and you choose to pull out that shit. I'm sorry, that's unacceptable. I'm going 0.
Fair enough. Now you know what. If you're going to be super critical of the mistake, you might as well go all the way, I guess. I guess that overall gives him 2.5-ish. I'm just thinking here. But Clutch, like Chronicles of Decay, we're just checking in. You okay? It was like Clutch is not looking well. You all right?
I'm watching the goal back.
See, doing research. See, this is why I bring Clutch on you. Let's just get it out the way, shall we? Cucurella. Now, I just saw someone in the chat, was Xello or whatever it was, saying it was clearly a manager instruction. It could be. It was so random that he just all of a sudden started sprinting. It might have been that Lampard told him. But that is also just finding an excuse for Cucurella because we think Lampard is shit. So, seems like a bit of an easy cop-out. Like I say, that one doesn't change anything about the goal, in my opinion. Even if he stays, the pass can still be played, and it's still Chalobah that needs to defend it. The only thing you could argue is Cucurella could then come in once Chalobah has gone to ground and, try to challenge Rodrygo again. You can argue that, I suppose. But the big issue about Cucurella was the miss, because arguably even more than Chalobah's, mistake. I know how you were at it, Aaron, in terms of that it we kind of almost we might have scored, we would have scored, but who knows? Because how did it go until then? How did it go in the last 4 games? How did it go after that? But the miss or the lack of shooting, and then a great save from Courtois, to be fair. But why does he wait? And you could just see it in his eyes that the man is not used to standing in front of a goal, and least of all in a Champions League quarterfinal with all the pressure on it. And that is no excuse by any means. But you could just see that that's what happened. You could just see it. And I do feel a bit bad for him because he also put in a real shift today. But when you have the biggest chance to take us back to this game, to literally take the roof of Stamford Bridge in that moment, just before halftime as well, would have been such a huge goal. So huge to give us a chance. And then to fluff it, it's just so poor. I don't think he was overall poor. Pass accuracy, 90%. Successful dribble, 0 out of 2. What defines a dribble and what doesn't? I don't know. His crossing really wasn't great, but we knew that before today that he can't cross to save his life. Accurate long balls, apparently 2 out of 3, but apparently didn't attempt to tackle. 1 out of 4 ground duels. With the mistake, with the missed chance, I'm going to give him, I don't know, thinking 3.5 or 4. I'm going to say 4 for now, but I might lower it and see what the guys say. Aaron, you went last on Chalobah. Are you going to basically do the same to Cucurella as you did to Chalobah and say, well, you cost us in a big way, and therefore you get 0 type thing?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
Granted that he rushed out like a madman. He must have had a rush of blood to his head or something because he went a bit mental. But yeah, I'm not gonna criticize him in the same way as Chalobah because I understand that he was also at fault, but fundamentally Chalobah made the biggest mistake that you could have made in that scenario. I don't know what Cucurella was doing charging out there and leaving all that space, but aside from that, in the game, I actually thought he was okay. He wasn't the worst. He's not a left wing back. Let's face it, he's not a left wing back. We can see this already. And the chance that he had, that's a chance that puts more momentum into the game. If he scores that, it's 1-0 to us. And you know what? With the way that we were playing, it kind of gives you that bit of hope. You're like, you know what? Maybe we can actually do something here. But he completely bottled it. Like, I don't understand why you take a touch there. When it comes to you, just hammer it goalwards. That's the best thing you can do in that situation. You're not too far out from the goal. Just hammer it. Because you're taking your time there. You're taking a touch. You're trying to place it, this, that, and the other. It gives the defense enough time to react, and it gives the keeper enough time to properly position himself. And then the shot wasn't the best either. So it was really disappointing with that chance and the fact that he just rushed out like a nut job. And I still think that Chalobah was mainly at fault, but he does take blame as well. So I'm going to give him a 2.
Fair enough. And you know what? Bobby just sent me a screenshot of the situation on Twitter. I'll bring it up on screen. And now screenshots can be a bit misleading, but what I will agree with, I was not quite aware, I'll be honest, that Chalobah was quite that far over the other side. I would love to know why he would, because he's the left centre back of a back three. I don't really see much of an explanation why he should be that far over there.
He was left wing back. He was left wing back today. You're saying Chalobah?
Yeah, no. Why was Chalobah so far over there as the left centre back?
Yeah, but then the worst thing about that is if you look at that picture, look at how the distance that Rodrygo has to Chalobah in terms of towards the goal. Chalobah's got a good few yards on him goal side. So by charging across there, even if you start charging diagonally rather than going straight on, there's a point where you meet where you'll be able to be on the same pace as him. You'll be in the same position. So that gives you that extra leverage to be able to push him further wide or force him to go backwards over. By running like straight across and trying to slide in and get the ball and then losing it, it completely ruins you. That's the perfect example where you stay on your feet and you completely fucked it.
No, I completely agree. But I do, on the basis of the screenshot, do agree that maybe it's rather than 1%, it's like 10% on Cucurella. Because as like Aaron has just explained, Chalobah still can stop it after. Now, obviously, if Chalobah if he doesn't go to ground and stays up, Rodrygo might just be able to play a simple cross, because on the other side, Vinicius is being ridiculously fast and Rodrygo plays a simple cross across the box and then he's there for a tap-in. So, of course, that could have then happened. And then we talk about Cucurella, but fact of the matter is, Chalobah was there, decided to slide, missed the ball, and then the guy was just through. So, it does really help. But there you see, is that Reece James? I think so. So, you're like, well, that means Fofana was here. Thiago Silva was probably somewhere here. Maybe slightly explains why Chalobah was quite as far over. Still think he was too far over. But obviously, we need to see the whole thing.
We were trying to pocket him on Madrid's left-hand side, and they just switched play and caught us.
The left centre-back to push that far, because they clearly had the ball with their left-back.
I mean, that's what it looks like. They were just trying to keep him over there, and then they caught us. But I don't know why you would do that against Madrid.
Yeah. Yeah,
but still, in my opinion, that still looks like tactical to me. It looks like they told him to go press high.
You mean tactical in that moment from the sideline, or in general?
Before I just watched that clip, I seen like several different instances on the highlights where Cucurella was doing the same thing. He was pressing that high.
But the centre back, when no one was behind him, though, that's the issue, I guess. He needs to be aware that Chalobah is not behind him. And then know, okay, if I don't have cover, I can't go. Like that, but that's an awareness he needs to have, regardless of whether he's told to press or not. Do you know what I mean? But at the end of the day, obviously, I'm still in agreement with you, Clutch and Aaron. That is clearly still mostly on Chalobah. Bobby, I'll take it to you. Aaron gave him a 2. I might have been a bit too nice with a 4 for the time being, but like I say, I still might change. So we sit on the 3 for the time being. What would you give Cucurella on the day?
1. Worst player. Terrible. Missed a big chance. In my opinion, was a large reason why the goal happened. like in that situation, I agree that tactically he was told to press in those situations. But in that particular instance, it looks to me that he was the only one pressing on that particular instance. Like there must have been triggers or something. And either maybe Lampard told him to go, but no one else in that situation was pressing to prevent, an attack. So I just feel like he maybe got too brash in the situation. But regardless, he missed a big chance in the first half. And then even like his crosses early on, we had a cross he played in probably around the 30th minute or so. Havertz was open at the back post, no one even marking him. And Cucurella just sent it like 6 yards over his head. And it just is like, can this guy put a cross in at all? Like at all. He's playing left wing back today, and he couldn't put at least not one decent cross. And yeah, like in my opinion, we lost. A large reason why we lost this whole tie was because of his poor decision making, when to go forward, when not to, missing a massive chance, probably our biggest chance that we had between the two legs, I think. And yeah, I just thought he was
without a doubt. Yeah.
I thought he was awful today, and which in his defense, he had some good, decent games. I actually think in the first leg he was decent, if I remember correctly. I was on a show with you a few weeks ago where we had a high rating for Cucurella. He either had like a 6.
Well, Cucurella only came on, didn't he?
I can't remember. But he did have one good game recently. But I just thought, he was terrible against first leg at Madrid.
He had a couple good games before the first leg.
Yeah, he had a decent stretch playing left center back. But
yeah, that's the big thing, playing left center back. Aaron, can you remind me one more time? What did you give Cucurella again? Sorry.
I gave him a 2.
You gave him a 2. Clutch, you haven't given your final rating for Cucurella yet, have you?
No.
There you go. What is it?
3.
3?
I don't blame him. Here's what I'll say. I don't blame him for the goal. I do think it was tactical. Yes, he should be a little bit more wiser, but in that situation, they were shifting. You could tell we were trying to press them into that where the left back is. We were trying to press them and corner them there. And then the ball shifted across, and that's when Cucurella had to step up and do his pressing job, because that's what they are told to do. Now, also when it comes to like the goal, he should have taken it first time. I can't excuse that. But at the end of the day, am I going to blame him? Like, if he takes it first time and misses him, am I going to really blame him? No. Because it's just, again, he's not the player to do that. He's not a goal scorer. So,
but then he's still a professional footballer. I mean, if you put him into an amateur game and put him into front of a goal, he would score 17 goals. Like he still has the ability. Otherwise, he wouldn't have made it this far, even if he plays in a different position, of course.
I mean, a mentality thing comes into it. Once you get to this level, I'm sorry. Like, this is why I had such a big problem with this game. Probably only Havertz and maybe James have that big game mentality to score a goal. No one else did. And unfortunately, that's why we lost. That's what it is.
I don't disagree. I mean, I think we might have lost also if we had more of those on the pitch. But hey, here it is. I guess overall a 4, a 2. Sorry, if it's a 1, a 2, a 3, and I'll take mine down to a 3 as well. So I guess we sit at a 2, maybe just over a 2. But here we are. Let's get to Reece James on the other side. It's a difficult one again. Why I'm like, can I criticize you for basically playing injured and therefore not being as fit as you need to be? Because if we didn't play him, it would still be even worse. So it's like, it's tough because he created the most chances. Apparently created 4 chances, 1 big chance. I'm not sure which one that was. For Cucurella, of course. His pass accuracy was strong, 97%, 67 of 69 passes completed. Successful dribbles, 5 out of 7. Accurate crosses, though, that was poor. Some of his crosses weren't great. Some of them were good, and just no one got on the end of it. But some of them also were poor. Accurate long balls, 3 out of 3. Tackles apparently didn't attempt any, but fair enough. Ground duels, 5 out of 11. It's okay. Not great, though. Committed 3 fouls. It's more the effort, but the effort is obviously because of the fitness. So I'm not sure how... I don't know what I need to give him, because we obviously we surrounded everything around him today. Like, and Frank was also touching on this in the press conference yesterday, where he's like, was watching our games under Tuchel last year, especially in Madrid, when we obviously turned it around, and it was basically Reece that dominated that game for us too, and that's why we then had on the opposite side, Timo had all the space, because Reece was just dominating that other side, and then we could switch it and have space. But some of the touches that he had, and then he let the ball go out of play, and then he committed a silly foul. He also got himself booked where I thought he could have also got sent off for that. He just literally flew studs first into the ankle of who was it? Camavinga. Like, that's a much worse tackle than what Felix got sent off at Fulham. I'll be straight up as it is. But I still think he was, in a way, our most important player. So it's like I don't know what to give him. So I'll ask you guys to rate him before I do. Clutch, what did you then make of Reece James, and how do you go through that? I guess, well, struggle in your mind where you're like, well, he clearly wasn't running as much as he needed to, but we also know that that's because he's not fit. So it's like, in an ideal world, he wouldn't have even played, but because he's basically our best player, he needs to play even when he's not fit.
Sure, but at what point does it become a detriment for him not being able to play at 100% than us changing something and trying to figure out something else? At what point does that happen? And that is the question, because this is why I think this wingback thing is so silly in my mind, is because it relies on Reece James being amazing all the time. He's just not going to be amazing all the time. And the unfortunate truth is Chelsea have, over the last 3 seasons, have become Reece James and Ben Chilwell dependent. And when those two aren't playing or playing at a top level, we're ass. We're massively ass. And you can just tell. So at what point do we need to, okay, maybe we need to change something up? If what really grinds my gears, and I'm going to use that word instead of saying something else, is the fact that when I watched Fofana sprint, everybody's tired. But we're supposed to push through that. If he's that tired, then it's time to get off the pitch, man. I'm sorry. I love Reece James. But at the end of the day,
it happened in the first half, right? So
it didn't happen in the second half.
He was going
I thought it was
time.
And even then,
it was in the first half.
Interesting. But even then, it's something we should have known was going to happen. I don't like, especially in that situation, when Reece James had a lot of space to go. But at the end of the day, I'd probably give him a 4. So probably what I would give him.
Well, we'll start with a 4, see what the other guys say. Bobby, what would you give Reece James? And what did you think of Reece James' performance?
I thought that, I agree, his touch a few times tonight was pretty poor. He definitely is still rusty, but when the ball was at his feet, it was the only time I felt like maybe something was going to happen.
I agree.
Anytime he had the ball down that right side, I was like, oh, maybe Reece can make magic happen. Maybe he can do one of those.
The reason he created 4 chances. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Maybe he can do one of those wiggle dribbles, get through, put it across, and we tap one in, something like that. Defensively, I didn't think he was poor or anything.
He just didn't really defend. To be honest, he left the defending just up to Fofana, let's be honest.
Yeah. And then he played, when the substitutions happened, he played center mid. He wasn't a right wing back anymore. So, and granted, he didn't do a whole lot in that role, but it's because when the subs happened, we just completely lost control of everything. It got really bad. But I thought a 5, slightly below average, but I don't think he was bad, because like I said, the only time I felt like something may happen for us was when he had the ball, and then he didn't have any massive errors defensively. Yeah, a poor yellow card, but nothing that led to a massive chance for Madrid or anything.
Yeah, no, that is fair. Aaron, I'll take it to you then. 4 and a 5 so far for Reece James. What would you give Reece James? And ladies and gentlemen, also in the chat, I will, rather than me already knowing it's going to be between 2 ratings, I would like to know what the chat would rate Reece James today. So I'm going to give you the option between 4 out of 10, 5, 6, or 7, just to get a bit of an inkling what the chat thinks. Because it still does feel slightly harsh to give someone that created 4 chances more than anybody else on the pitch a rating below average. But at the same time, when I watched him, I'm like, you're not it today. But still, he was the most influential creative player that we had. Where you're like, are we only rating him a 5 and a 6 and a 4, like this type of thing, because he's Reece James and we know of how good he can be? And if this was any other player, we would have given this very same performance a very different rating. That's what's difficult to me, Aaron. What do you think of that one?
I'm literally just trying to watch back the first goal and see where the error lies is kind of baffling to me. It's, other than Chalobah, I'm trying to see if I've missed anything. I don't think I have. But Reece James, he doesn't look fit. I know people are taking that in different ways, should we say, because I'm not trying to be derogatory towards him, but he doesn't look fit at all. His touch was very loose at a lot of times today, which I didn't understand. He was putting some good crosses in. The problem is there was no one really on the end of them, but he did put a good amount of crosses in. I felt like that was one of the more dangerous points, but he gassed out so quickly. I didn't understand it. Like, he didn't even run much before he was really tired, and I thought this is just really odd. Like, he really needs to just get that surgery. The season's over anyway for us, so I think I don't think he should play anymore. I think he should just go get the surgery that he needs and be ready for pre-season, because we're void of any reason to need him anymore, because we've got nothing to play for. So
yeah, I think if he does require surgery, and we don't actually know if he does, but if he does and surgery could help him, then I think he should go have surgery right now.
Yeah, there's nothing left to play for. He needs to just go have it if there is. But yeah, I think I'd agree with the 4 as well, because it's harsh to give somebody a 4 who's created a lot of chances and put in loads of good crosses, but it's just the touches, the loose touches, and the lack of any running really was the bit that got to me, to be honest.
All right, I think I'm going to give him a 5. I was even tempted by like a 5.5-ish. But I think I'm going to give him a 5, and that leaves us at a 4.5 overall. Ladies and gentlemen, still please put your votes in the poll for Reece James' rating in your opinion. Currently, we sit at 40% of a 5, 37% of a 4. So at least most of you are basically agreeing with us. So, that is good to see. Let's get to the midfielders. Let's do Kovacic first, because he was the deeper one. Clutch, you were saying earlier, and by the way, I know you said you didn't have forever, so just let me know when you need to head off, by the way. But you said you were really unhappy with Kovacic today. What exactly led you to that? Because... But by the way, I know some people seem to think I only go by the stats. No. I have my opinion already. And then as I'm talking about it, I look at stats to add the information of stats to what I've seen. I don't just go by stats. I literally watch the game. This is what I do. Do you know what I mean? But I still think stats play a bit of a role in certain, because sometimes I might see something and then you're like, and you just stamp it off as that's how it is, even though it was early in the game, and then you miss certain other things. But like I said, the pass accuracy, 95%, 81 out of 85 passes. Again, no dribbles, but he was the most defensive of midfielders today, so I let him off a little bit more for that. Accurate long balls, 3 out of 4. Not sure when all of those happened. An issue I see again is, how can you be the most defensive midfielders and have 0 tackles? Then again, how much possession? How was the possession overall in the end? We had 54, so it's not like we dominated for the whole time. I guess when they had the ball, they often passed around the back, I suppose. But still, you should have a tackle or 2. Ground duels, 4 out of 7 is good. Aerial duels, he didn't have any. 4 fouls, only committed 1. Not 14 passes into the final third as well, 94 touches. Maybe I'll agree that he wasn't good, but I personally think it's a bit harsh to say he was awful. So, Clutch, what made you think he was awful? Or maybe awful is slightly too extreme of a term, but not good anyway.
As the deepest lying midfielder, he was never really helping out the defense. Never. He was always so far. What I will give him is...
But how much did we actually defend?
45%.
No. Them having the ball does not mean we defend. They pass around instead of wax.
No. The only time he did have a couple nice passes, but that's about the only time I ever really noticed him.
Okay.
And when I looked at his stats, I'm like, okay, it seems a lot better, but I'd never really noticed him. I'd never really seen him helping out on defense as the deepest lying midfielder. And I don't know. It's just, I can't remember exactly why I was so mad at him, but my whole head has got a blur. I'd probably give him a 4. I'm going to be honest.
Fair enough. That's what we're 4 people here. So, if other people agree, that will reflect in the rating. Aaron, do you disagree with Clutch? And if so, by how much?
No, I agree with the 4 as well. As you said, the deepest lying in the midfield, you'd think that there'd be more defensive support. Granted, we know that's not his game. It's just the fact that we don't have a deep line midfielder at the club, so someone's got a shoehorn in there at some point, and he was the one tasked with it. But he didn't really help out the defense all that much, like you see on the first goal. It's like he's he's not sprinting back at first, and he starts sprinting back. But by the time he does, it's too late. They're already in a dangerous position, and you'd expect somebody of his caliber and quality, even as the deep line midfielder, when he was going forward, you'd think there'd be a bit more security in the dribbling and the way he looks for those forward passes. I don't know if it was me. I just didn't feel like there was as much of that today. I get it. He was the furthest back, but when he did pick up the ball, it felt a bit that he wasn't really going to play that sort of pass that we know he can, that sort of goes out wide and puts us in a dangerous position sort of thing.
I'm not sure what pass that would have been, but apparently has a expected assists of 0.12, which for an expected assist is actually quite high. So I'm wondering if he maybe played one of them to Kante, of one of the two that Kante had. I'm not sure. But Bobby, 2 4s then. Do you agree with the boys on that, or do you think he was better than that?
I agree with the 4. The 95% pass accuracy, but it's all safe passes. We need goals.
I mean, it's 14 into the final third.
Still, can you name one pass from him that stands out in your mind from the match? There's not one that stands out. Our midfield has been stale for years, and Mateo Kovacic has been a big part of that midfield for years. And I'm starting to lose patience with his ability to create plays, to break defenses down. And yeah, it was just more of the same from him today. Just everything was safe, no goal scored. And then also, if you guys want to be mad at Kova, watch his role on the second goal and how much trotting there was going on from him in that situation. Literally just trotting back. It was frustrating. I was pretty pissed off when I saw him, on the trot on that second goal. Granted, maybe it was out of the question, but in that situation, in my opinion, you gotta at least sprint.
Do you know who made the challenge against Rodrygo? He didn't get it, but
the second goal,
the first goal.
No. We're talking about. He's talking about.
I know. Are you talking about well, on the first goal, Cucurella was the one who almost blocked it. By the way, just so you know.
What, in the box then?
Yes.
That is a little bit of credit to him again, to be fair, because we looked at the screenshot where Cucurella was. The fact that he was then in the box trying to block the pass.
And Reece James took out Rodrygo's leg. So if he wouldn't have scored the goal, he probably would have got a penalty call against him.
Maybe. But that doesn't really change anything in the end. Bobby, you said 4. You agree with that, yeah?
Yeah, 4.
Fair. Anything else you wanted to add on that? Sorry?
No.
Okay, all good. See, for me, I just have a bit of an issue where, not much of the game happened where these players were. Most of the game happened where these players were, with Kante, more so than Gallagher. And so far, we've given 2 of these 3 6s and 7s, and then these 2, even though, I know we didn't win, and I know we didn't score, but the midfield we won today. We were the dominant team for pretty much the entire game. I know because Madrid let us. That's totally fair, and I'm totally accepting of that. But I still find it a little bit harsh, quite how low the ratings are. I'll be honest.
But you have to remember, when you're playing with 4 central midfielders on the pitch with 2 wing backs,
but they're playing with 3, so it's not like, usually we play with 2 and they play with 3. We don't give ours any excuse.
Yeah, but the thing is, they play with 3, yes, but we played with 4 central midfielders on the pitch and 2 wing backs who are effectively like left mids and right mids. Of course, we're going to win the midfield battle. We're basically doubling up.
Okay, that's a fair point to make. Yeah, fair. But I still think a 4 is then a bit harsh, Because I just, maybe he trotted back a bit too much in the second goal. Fair enough. But that's still too much for a 4. I don't know. I'd give him a 5, but I guess with 3 4s. We remain at a 4 regardless of that. Let's get to Enzo Fernandez. I don't even know what I think of Enzo. Pass accuracy was good. Didn't have much of an expected assist or expected goals. Well, expected goals apparently 0.13, but that was obviously his left foot shot quite late on. Accurate crosses, 0 out of 3. Accurate long balls, 9 out of 10. Strong again. Tackles, 2 out of 2. Ground duels, 2 out of 3. Aerial duels, 1 out of 3. But the main issue I had with him today was his corners. My God, never let him take a corner again unless he starts to fix that, because that was shocking. In a game like this, when you need a goal so badly, when you have a team of no attackers on the pitch, where like, you need your set pieces to be dangerous. You know, how often as Chelsea, how often did we play against the Burnley and Newcastle, flipping God knows who else, Bournemouth, and they do nothing all game, get one corner goal. And we are not capable of that at the moment nowadays. And it's a real shame. Like, we used to be a team that was, when we could also score from open play, we used to be such a dangerous team from set pieces. And like, even it's not, you can't even say it's because Rudiger left, because Rudiger didn't actually score that many. He scored 2 against less than one game, and that skewed all the stats. Because otherwise, he didn't score many from corners. So like, even before this already, I'm not blaming either Anthony Barry or any of the managers for this necessarily, because I don't know. It just, we never seem to have the power, and like, we just, you know, back in the day, like a John Terry or Robert Bloody Huth or
Kurt
I don't know,
Zuma.
Michael Ballack, Didier Drogba, obviously.
Gary Cahill,
yeah, good point. They just, Ivanovic, they made sure they were the ones that got on the end of the ball. And now it just seems like we stand there, wait for the ball, jump into the air. If the ball doesn't land exactly on our head, we don't win it. And that's not even just blaming the guy that took the set piece. It's like, you can't just wait for it to hit your head, because even when it does, you're not going to have any power on it. So like, it's really frustrating me how we just are no threat from set pieces. Like, it really pisses me off, especially for who we are and like almost what the success of this club was to some extent built on. And I know we've phased out a lot of the physical players, and that's what physical players bring you. But like a Fofana, Chalobah, Kai can do a thing. Even Thiago Silva scored a couple of headers over the last couple of years. So like, we need to do more on that. But yeah, back to Enzo. His set piece delivery was dreadful. Because of that, I think him and Enzo, I don't think, him and Kova, I don't think there was much between them. Honestly, I don't think so. Yeah, obviously Enzo was a bit higher, Kova was a bit deeper, so you could blame Kova a bit more for defensive issues. But we didn't have that many defensive issues. Let's not beat around the bush here. Like, Madrid had 1 real chance in the first half and like 3 in the second half. And like, they were all on the counter. Like, and that's obviously going to happen. We're chasing a game. So like, no matter, like, you know, no one's going to stop that realistically. Even if, you know, we'd never trot and always constantly sprint. Also, it's not possible to sprint 90 minutes straight. So like, I don't know. But so I gave Kova a 5. Because of the set pieces, I will give Enzo a 4. Now, seemingly, a lot of you guys thought Kovacic was much worse than Enzo. But to me, there wasn't too much between them. And Enzo had the dreadful set pieces. Therefore, he's getting a lower rating. That's what I'll say. Aaron, I'll start this one with you. What would you give Enzo then?
the weirdest thing is I agree with the 4, but I think he was harshly subbed, because if it was me, I still would have taken Kovacic off over Enzo, because for me, when Enzo's played, he's looked better as a 6 than he has as an 8, even though he's naturally meant to be an 8. So in the scenario of this game,
real 8 though. It was like, you know, I mean, I can bring it up if you want to, the average
the average positions. But yeah, while you do that, Enzo, like, his set pieces are atrocious. Like, I don't ever want to see that man over the ball on a free kick or a corner or whatever. He cannot cross a ball to save his life. That, like, for 105 million pounds, you would think that someone might be able to put in a decent cross, but yeah, that's definitely not his skill set. So yeah, I'm done.
I'm sure he can do it, but today he most certainly couldn't.
Yeah, well, he definitely didn't today. That's all I know. I just want to say sorry to Jem for roasting his boy. But yeah, aside from that one left-footed shot, it wasn't anything great. Straight at the keeper. It is his weak foot though. But yeah, I think he was harshly subbed. I would have taken Kovacic off instead of him and dropped Enzo a little bit deeper. But yeah, it wasn't his greatest display. I feel like the last few games he hasn't been particularly great. Granted, the whole team haven't, but just him and himself as well. I don't think he's been particularly great.
Yeah, I don't disagree, mate. I do not disagree. Bobby, Enzo Fernandez, 2 4s for him. Would you agree with that? Or do you think he was much better than Kovacic?
Not much better, but I thought I would give Enzo a 5. He switched play a few times with some really nice passes. He also, in the first half, played in a ball to Gallagher. A through ball, but Gallagher didn't start his run on time, and they kind of yelled at each other. But in my opinion, Gallagher was delayed in starting his run, and if he would have taken off, Enzo did a perfectly weighted through ball in where Gallagher would have been in the channel and going in on goal. And I also agree on the set pieces, though. He was pretty bad today, especially the last one he delivered in the second half was so bad, embarrassing. I also would have taken Kova off instead of Enzo. And then something else.
I'd say, as honestly, I just think Frank purely chose Enzo over Kova to take off for pace. Simple as that.
But
to have a bit more pace when we get hit on the counter, to have someone faster try run back. I think that was literally the explanation.
That's fair. But like with Enzo, when I watch him, I feel like he's always giving effort. Like he clearly wants to do well. He wants us to have results. Like he cares. Like when I look at him play and when I see his reactions to disappointing situations, it seems like he really, really cares and he's pissed off. And I respond positively to that. Whereas Kova, to me, seems like he's very passive. His body language is more like, I don't give a shit right now. And I'm tired of seeing that. And especially in this situation, I just feel like Enzo was a player that I would have kept on, because I also know that if we were going to find a goal somewhere, there's a strong chance that Enzo would have been the one to unlock the Madrid defense. Also, if any of our midfielders are going to make a magic happen from outside the box, it's going to be Enzo and definitely not Kova.
There you go.
But,
just to bring it up, the average positions Kova was a good bit deeper than Enzo, but Enzo was still not really acting as well. Maybe it's kind of an 8, I guess, but certainly still part of a pivot, I would say, just one more advanced than the other. But yeah, sorry, Bobby, were you trying to say something more to that?
No, just trying to wrap it up, and I give him a 5.
Fair enough.
Can we just quickly say, Kante being our second furthest forward player should be criminal. Like that is honestly ridiculous.
This is not the third manager in a row that does it. Tuchel did this. Potter did it in the one game he used Kante in, because Kante was injured for the whole rest of the time. Bruno Saltor did it. And now, well, Bruno Saltor was a bit of a different 3-5-2. And now Lampard did it. Why do they all do this?
These managers need to be banned from playing him as a number 10. They need to put it in the next manager's contract. They're not allowed to play him as a number 10.
Because he can press really well. That's all it is. They want him
we know
sprinting after everybody.
But like, figure out a different way, man. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just frustrating. Clutch, finish that Enzo off for us. 2 4s, 1 5. What would you give him?
I give him a 4. As the guy who was allowed to go a little bit further, he didn't give us the line breaking passes that we needed so much. To his credit, who are you really going to give it to? You're not going to give it to Gallagher. You can't really give it to Kante or Havertz. So it's really not the best place, but at the end of the day, you still got to try it. And I never really seen him try to make those line breaking passes. It was always like switching or going down to Reece James on the side. Not much else. So I'd give him a 4.
Do you think we would have had any more joy if we swapped Enzo and Kovacic's positions, where Enzo was a bit deeper and Kovacic had that bit more license
I think Madrid defended these line-breaking passes well, you know. And also, when you only have Havertz and then Gallagher and Kante, you're not going to get the runs to make those passes anyway. Like, who are you going to pass those, like the line-breaking passes that Clutch is talking about, who are you going to pass those to if you don't have any forwards on the pitch? You know? And Havertz isn't the type of forward to make the runs deep to receive the ball. He's the guy that runs short to create space, and then someone needs to run behind him. But no one was there to run behind him. So, but yeah, fair enough. Now I'm questioning, because the chat has kind of decided for a 5 for Reece James. We obviously had a 4.5, so I'm not sure if I now want to give the chat a vote or not. So again, guys, there's still a fair few of you that haven't placed your vote. So please do that in the poll in the chat and give me a rating. If there's enough of you that vote, I might let you have the 5. If you vote for a 5. Let's get to N'Golo Kante then. We just discussed his position. Very confusing. Why all the managers do that. I mean, here, FOTMob here even puts it as a flat 3-4-3 with Kante and Gallagher as 10s behind Havertz, and it's not even wrong. And that's the crazy thing about it. Pass accuracy, 89%, 32 of 36. It's all right. Dribble, 0 out of 1. Okay. Accurate crosses, 1 out of 3. All right. Long balls, 1 out of 1. Tackles, 1, 2 out of 2. Ground duels, 2 out of 6. I don't think Kante was great, you know. I really don't. I do think Kante is being slightly harshly done by number 1, by obviously how long he was out for and how much hope we put in him. But when I've seen him play against Liverpool, where it wasn't quite as high, and how dominant he was and how much he could help us break lines and then have space, because he's in the last couple of games been then so much higher forward. It just seems like I understand that Kante can press, and it was obviously very useful at that, him and Gallagher together. I understand the logic, and it worked to some extent. Like, we created moments from that if we took them, could have brought us into the game and maybe managed to bring it back. Unfortunately, we didn't take the chances, so we will never quite see that in that, quite effect. But I still think you're kind of wasting Kante up there a little bit, because he clearly was then sometimes trying to help out the midfield and just trying to run back. And I'm like, okay, so now you're just unnecessarily overrunning, a player that's been injured for 7 months. I don't know, but he wasn't good. He had the big chance in the first half on his left foot. Sure, it's his left foot, but like he just puts it wide. And then the second half one is a bit tough because it gets blocked and he's shooting on the turn. And then it's blocked by Militao. But even if it doesn't hit Militao, he hits it straight at Courtois. But because he's turning basically on the 180 spin, it's difficult to really criticize him. But it's an attempt from in the 5-yard box, the 6-yard box, right? So I don't know what I'd give Kante. I'm thinking 4 as well. Do people think that's harsh? If you guys think that's harsh, and by you guys, I don't mean the panel, you probably think that because you like Kante. But maybe I'm also wrong. So, who knows? Clutch, go first for this one. What do you think, Fongolo?
I thought he did what N'Golo does well. Like, he pressed and kind of was making a nuisance of himself. But at the end of the day, I don't think he should be playing that far forward. And it's under 3 different managers we've learned that. Because, yes, he's going to give you what Kante gives you. But at the end of the day, there's going to be no end product. So, like, what did you really expect to happen? Him and then, like, a tap into Havertz? Like, do I really want to blame Kante for that? Not really. But at the end of the day, you're still playing in that position, I guess. So, 4 is probably the best thing for him. I don't want to go too harsh. I don't think no, I'm going to go 4.5. I like Kante, so we're going to give him a 4.5. And he didn't get injured. So, love that.
He didn't get injured. That is pretty good. Fair enough. Bobby, what about you? What would you give Kante? Do you think a 4 is too harsh? Do you think it's fair? There's a lot of different ratings here in the chat. I've seen a 6, a 5, a 4. Someone said 6.5. What do you think?
I think he was a 5. I was feeling a 5. Obviously he had some chances that he missed, but blocked. And do we really need Kante up there taking those chances? I mean, I wish we had other players in that role, but he wasn't I didn't notice him as much today as I've had in previous matches where he was obviously excellent. So I just don't think he had that big of impact. But there were a few times in the first half where him and Reece combined and Kante got down the right side and we were almost dangerous. He put in a cross at one point where Havertz was in the box and Kante did make the right play and cut it back to Havertz, but unfortunately the defender made a really good play and cut it out, which the ball went out for a corner. His pressing was effective, but it wasn't as effective as it has been in previous matches. And when I just think about the overall impact and the impression he left on me today, I think a 5 is where I land.
Fair enough. I guess that leaves us with 2 4s and 1 5 before we take it to Aaron. Fortunately, Clutch needs to leave us. Clutch, have a great rest of your day. Thank you for joining us. Not sure how many more streams we're going to get this season of happiness, but, we can only hope. Hey, appreciate you, and then we'll see you soon, mate. Aaron, finish that one off for us. 2 4s, 1 5. What will you give Kante?
I'm not going to allow the double standards that we have here of we don't want Kante in these positions when he misses a chance, but when it's Cucurella, we cook him. So I'm going to cook Kante the same because it's a gilt-edged chance. At the end of the day, you're on your weaker foot. Yeah, cool, whatever, but you are close to the goal.
You're still N'Golo Kante. Everyone always tells me he's the best midfielder in the world. So, like...
Yeah, but like you're that close to the goal. You've got more time than you think. You don't need to take that on your left foot. You could take a touch and have a shot on your right foot. And even if it is on your left foot, you're a professional footballer at the end of the day. You need to be able to hit the target with both feet. So he needs to be doing a hell of a lot better there. And the second one, I can't really blame him for too much because it was blocked. But same way, whether it's blocked or not, it's going straight at the keeper. It's not even like he's aimed at a corner or the side or anything.
He's turning, so he can't really aim, really.
That's why I'm not too critical of it. But in terms of the rest of the game, I do think he worked very hard. Like he runs a lot. We know we get that with Kante. He was running a hell of a lot. So we will give that to him because it's very difficult to have the stamina that he does and use it well when he was trying to support the attack and support the defense. And he's trying to make these runs, but he's not like an attacking midfielder or a winger where he's got the natural instinct to make these runs in behind or make these runs out wide and put in across. Some of his crosses weren't great, but it's not really to be expected. So it's a bit annoying, but I would probably go with the 4 as well.
Fair enough. Well, like it was, I guess, with cover. 4 then wins. Let's give it to Gallagher. I think Gallagher's biggest mistake today was being picked by Lampard, which is not something that Gallagher can do much about. In terms of what Gallagher did on the pitch, do I think he was as bad as I think a lot of people are going to make him out? Actually, I don't. But was he good? No. Like, the most frustrating bit was that one chance where Felix had come on, gives Militao the nutmeg, and then he just refuses to play. Or was that actually Havertz? Because Gallagher
that was Havertz.
Yeah, it was. Gallagher was off then. Apparently, he had 0.25 expected goals from some sort of shot. I don't remember this shot happening, but fair enough. Expected assist had apparently 0.33. I would love to know what he assisted to make that happen, but sure. Passes into the final third, 4, but I guess he was in the final third himself mostly. So therefore, I guess that is supposedly somewhat difficult. I don't know. His pass accuracy 83% in that position, not awful. Not awful, I guess, when you compare it to other games of other players in similar positions. I'd probably just give him the same 4 as we gave Cover, Enzo, and Kante. I still think Cover and Enzo, especially Cover, well, no, both of them maybe deserve the tiny bit higher, 0.5 or 1, but I don't think Gallagher deserves to be that much lower than the other guys. Do you disagree with that, Bobby? Do you think he did? Like, I mean, maybe I just didn't. There's things I didn't notice as that. It was just he just seems like he was just chasing after each ball. He was trying his hardest, and then I'll be honest. I mean, he had how many touches did he have before he came off? 39. To be fair, considering he was subbed off with over 20 to go, and he only had 10 less touches than Kante did as a whole. He did touch the ball quite a lot, I guess. But like I say, didn't really see him do much wrong. Once he really annoyed me, Reece actually annoyed me because Reece asked for the ball on the right-hand side. Kante then crosses it. Now, bear in mind, it wasn't a great cross and he went it not far over Havertz's head. But if Reece just ran for it, then he would have got to it. Not that has much to do with Gallagher, I guess, but yeah. I think the 4 is okay. I think Cover, Enzo, Kante, Gallagher, they could have all probably also had a 5. But somewhere around that realm. I mean, Bobby, do you think Gallagher deserves lower than the other guys, or what do you think?
No, I don't think he deserves lower. I think a 4 is. I don't know what this guy does.
Well, neither do I. But that's what I'm saying. That's not really his issue. That's the issue for the manager picking him. That's more of the issue.
Like, what was his purpose today? Was he supposed to drop deep in the midfield and help a lot? Was he supposed to stay high up the pitch and help play off Havertz?
Chase and run.
Yeah, I mean, that's all. Like, try hard. Like, Conor Gallagher tries hard, but that's not going to get us what we need for Chelsea Football Club. Like, I just don't know what this guy does well other than run really hard and run a lot. And that's not good enough. And I don't understand why these managers keep trying to force this guy into lineups. And yeah, today, hardly noticeable. That's, if I could sum up in a title of his performance today, hardly noticeable. I don't remember him being awful like he has been at certain times throughout the season, but he also didn't really do much at all to affect the game. So yeah, I feel a 4 is a fair rating for him. Hopefully I don't have to see him next Wednesday.
Hopefully you don't. Hopefully you don't. Aaron, Gallagher, do you agree with the 4? Would you give him something different?
I think it's absolutely pathetic that he even started in the first place. I think it's a ridiculous fetish that is just going through these managers, and it's scary because I don't know what he offers the team that players like Pulisic or Mudryk or Madueke can't offer in that position. Granted, obviously Madueke is not in the squad for the Champions League, but just generally speaking, he's playing as part of it's like a front 3. You've got so many other options who are much better in that position, and he constantly keeps getting picked, whether it's in a midfield 3 or whether it's in a front 3. He seems to always be there, and I don't get it. He goes out there and he basically just has a cardio session. That's literally about it. Like, if you want to do that, just go get a gym membership and go run on a treadmill, because you don't need to be doing that out on the pitch at Stamford Bridge. But Yeah, I don't have much to say for him. I'm just going to agree with it, but I just don't like him as a player. I don't know why he's here. Hopefully he's not here next year because he just runs. That's it. There's no substance to his game. There's no technical ability. He just runs, and it's a pathetic excuse of a footballer, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, at least for our level. I think we can all agree on that. I mean, he's certainly much better at football than I am, but
Probably debatable.
All right, appreciate the support, bro.
Got you, man.
Let's finish it off for Kai Havertz. I don't even know what I think of Kai. I almost want to give him an NA, not because he didn't do nothing, but because I don't know. 86% pass accuracy, okay. He had one shot, really, like one real shot.
It was the one that went like literally straight at Courtois. Like really,
yeah, it did take a deflection as well, though. I think it wouldn't have gone quite as close to Courtois.
But by the way, if you were gonna go with the NA, then I will back you on it because there's.
Nah, I'm probably not, but like, if the problem is if you're also not sure what to give him, I don't know. Like honestly, I have so like little defined memories of him doing something either really well or really bad that I'd probably just want to give him a 6. But knowing this fan base and my chat, you'd probably hate me for doing that. Ground duels 4 out of 5. Okay, aerial duels 3 out of 6. All right. Tackles 1 out of 1. Not that matters. Accurate long ball. Not sure when that was supposedly happening, but anyway, 2 out of 3 dribbles. Since when can he dribble better than Kovacic? That's new. Shot accuracy. Okay, he got 1 out of 2 on target. The other one he didn't. I don't remember the other shot if I'm honest. Bobby, seemingly me and Aaron are a bit unsure. Do you have anything in mind that you want to give Havertz?
Yeah, I actually thought he was solid today. I would give him a 6.
All right, well, if you're saying that, then I might just agree because that's what my mind was saying, but less so because I thought it was particularly solid or not solid. It was just like, I don't remember you doing things bad. I don't remember you doing things particularly well, so therefore you get a 6.
we were able to play the ball out today. I mean, Real Madrid first.
It was certainly a trillion times better with him than it was a week ago.
Like think about Brighton. Like we couldn't get the ball out, and the same thing against Madrid in the first leg. We couldn't get the ball out of our own half, and Kai was a big reason why we were able to do that today. He actually
and also like I mean I don't know this. I haven't spoken to Carlo Ancelotti, but even though Militao had picked up a yellow card in the first half and I guess that's one we should debate whether Militao should have been sent off or not, because Frank Lampard sure seems to think so, judging by his post-match comments. And he obviously had a little knock in the first half where he looked like he might be injured or whatever. And then still at half-time, Ancelotti took Alaba off for Rudiger. No, well, why do you think that is? Because Havertz always stayed with Alaba and won every header because Alaba is short for a centre-back. So what you're saying there, to be honest, Bobby, now that you've said that, trigger that memory of, oh yeah, Alaba, that all makes sense now. But yeah, anything more you wanted to elaborate on Havertz?
I just thought that, Kai has driven me crazy a lot this year, but today I feel his link-up play and just his involvement as far as getting teammates going and, at least making it so we were functional. A lot of that was due to his play today as a number 9. Like he's number 9, whatever, but at least he has the frame to hold the ball up a little bit to make us a more functional team.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. But I guess 2 6s from our end, then no one in the chat has shouted at us yet. So, seems like we're at least okay with that. Aaron, I know you said maybe an A. Does that kind of mean you would maybe even go along with a 6 or would you go for lower? I assume no one's going to go higher. So
I just feel so sorry for him. Like he had nothing up front. He had no wingers to support him. He was relying on central midfielders to try and help him out. And I'm starting to understand Havertz a lot more as a footballer as time goes on, and I'm starting to appreciate him a bit more. Like, I think he's very polarizing in the fan base, and I think a lot of people actually just don't understand him as a footballer, and I'm starting to get him a lot more now.
But they don't understand him, and they don't understand what he is supposed to do. They think
they don't understand his
like
role.
Diego Costa. Well, but no, that he's not even instructed to do that.
Yeah, but I just think I'm starting to see a lot more that he's actually, as shit as we are, he's actually important to us not being even worse. Like when you look at the performances with and without him, he gives you an aerial presence. Which is very surprising. You wouldn't expect him to be that aerial presence with his stature and the fact that he's not exactly the biggest. Well, he's tall, but he's not like the bulkiest of guys. But he seems to win a lot of headers, and his link-up play is actually a lot better than most of what we've got. And yeah, I just felt really sorry for him today. He had nothing going forward for him, so I can't really fault him. I'm just gonna go with a 6. I'll go along with it.
Fair. The frustrating thing is because I remember my commentator said not close to the end because Reece was still on the wing then. He said that was our 20th cross. So it felt like we're well and truly back in Frank Lampard era. Cross and inshallah. Do you know what I mean? It was back to it. And not one of them landed with Kai Havertz properly. Now, maybe he could have done a bit better in the air on a few of them. But my days, can we cross to the one guy we have in a box for once? Flip's sake, man. But yeah, it still frustrates me sometimes where it just looks like he is just too sluggish. I'm like, I mean, he's tried certainly harder today than he does some other games, but I still think like if you gave it that extra couple percent, which I still think he would have in him, he would be so much better. I don't know why he doesn't give that extra couple percent. I don't know. All right, we made 4 subs in 3 in 1 go. Mudryk, Sterling, and Felix. Mudryk then essentially playing wing back, and then Havertz came on from out, which also I know it was when Mount came on, it was even only 1-0. Why would you take Havertz off for Mount? I just don't understand that at all. Like, surely just take Kovacic off, put Kante midfield, and let Mount be behind the striker. Not what? I mean, Mount was behind the striker because then Felix plays striker, but still, I just don't really understand it. If I'm honest, I don't really have much to say for any of them other than that they were, in particular, Sterling was just awful. Now, I mean, can I look at some stats? Do the stats tell me he was as awful?
Can we
7
also
out of 10
point out
passes.
Felix, his decision-making is just getting worse and worse.
And I've never seen a winger cross as bad as Sterling. Did you see that cross he played?
I thought he took a deflection. That's why I thought, okay, corner. Then he pointed to.
We didn't get a corner, did we?
No. That's what I thought. I thought it was a corner. Then the referee pointed for a goal kick, and I thought, what the fuck? Like, was it really that bad of a cross?
Yeah, it just was. So, I mean, we can talk about them, I guess, but I think let's just give them all an NA. It's just guesswork. If we give them all stats, it's kind of it just gets unfair because we're just saying things realistically. But Bobby, much to say on any of the 4 subs?
I can't stand Raheem Sterling in Chelsea. It's not for me.
It just doesn't look right, does it?
No, it doesn't seem like he's enjoying himself either. I feel like most times when he plays, I'm just left aggravated.
To be fair, I feel like Sterling, I've never seen him look like he's enjoying himself, whether that's a City, Liverpool, or for England. So I think that might just be his face. But
well, it's mutual. He doesn't make me feel good when I watch him play either. Yeah, I just wanted to say that he was particularly awful today. Mudryk was okay. Shot was pretty bad. That went into the 12th row. Felix obviously had the one charging run where it was beautiful and the oohs and ahs, and then he could have easily played in Havertz on a through ball, but he decides not to, and then loses the ball once.
And then passed it straight to the opponent as he tried to pass it to, I think.
Yeah, he did. He tried to pass it to Sterling, I think, and he gave it right back to Real Madrid.
That's what I'm saying. So, yeah.
Mount is a definite NA. I mean, I know you're going NA on all, but Mount, definite NA.
I don't even remember him. I mean, I can quickly look at his stats. He attempted 2 passes, succeeded both. He had a whole 4 touches, one tackle, 1 out of 2 ground duels. Literally, if you have 4 touches, you can't get a rating, can you?
Nope.
And Mudryk had, I mean, that shot that he put wide, he was the lucky man that he was offside. The run was great. That he shot it wide is just poor. I know Clutches clearly doesn't rate Mudryk that highly. To me, what I see of Mudryk, even though he misses things, what I see of the guy, the way he hit it hard in that situation, unlike a Havertz, which is why Havertz misses all of his 1v1s because he never puts power on it. And the fact that he went near post and tried to send the keeper to far post is really good. Now, obviously, I know he put it a yard wide, and that's unacceptable. I understand. But I still see the potential where I'm like, the way you shoot, the way where you pick to shoot towards, I still think eventually Mudryk will be an absolute monster in front of goal. I'm not saying he's going to be like Salah, but Salah, when he was at Basel, when he was at Chelsea, even when he was at Fiorentina or Roma, was not a wonder finisher like he became at Liverpool, where he just scores everything. Now, I know there was even times when even he scored 32 goals in a season, he still should have had probably 50 because he's missed a lot. But I still think the way he tries to finish, as much as they've not always gone well, I still think he will become very good at that. And the touch he had was wonderful. But not much to say else. Not much to say else. All right, mate. But yeah, Sterling, we discussed. Felix, I can only echo it. He just annoys me. I'm like, how can you dribble so nicely, put it through the legs of Militao, mug them right off, and then Havertz literally makes a run onto his weak left foot where he can shoot across the keeper. Now, chances are he doesn't score because Courtois is great and Havertz is great one-on-one in front of goal. So chances are it's not a goal anyway. But why would you not pass that pass? Why would you choose not to? I just do not understand. It's just baffling. Absolutely baffling to me. But yeah, to clarify, by the end it was then James here, and Sterling was basically playing wing back and showing why he's really bad at that, and kind of giving almost a bit more extra credit to like the likes of Pulisic and Ziyech when they've in the past had to fill in at like a wing back, and have certainly done a lot better than Sterling did in that 20 minutes. That's for damn sure. But yeah, let's give them all an 8. Finish that off. Let's go to bed soon. Let's finish it off with Frank Lampard then. Difficult one because we all hated the line to start with. But when I see the game and I'm like, okay, so say he started Felix instead of Gallagher. Say he started, I don't know, a 4-3-3 instead and gone for it like that. Do I think that would have gone better? Felix instead of Gallagher, so that means we win the ball back about half as often because the press will be half as effective, if not less. Mount, I assume, is still not fit to start. Otherwise, I cannot imagine Frank Lampard not starting Mount if he could start. I refuse to believe that is a possibility. Therefore, I think Mount can't start. So I'm not going to...
Johnny Minerals will disagree.
Sorry? Here we disagree.
I said Johnny Minerals would disagree.
But Johnny Minerals is there, so he doesn't know nothing. Let's be honest now. Come for me, Johnny. I'm so terrified. My God. So it's like, I hated the team when I saw it. Then when it played, I'm like... It kind of worked. If we took one of those chances, the momentum could have taken us to do something crazy. But we will never know whether that actually would have happened. Or if we would have scored a 1-0, 5 minutes later, we would have conceded a 1-1 because we woke up the devil or the dragon or whatever you call it, a monster in Madrid, and they would have just destroyed us once we took the lead. Maybe that would have happened. But I don't think we can go that low for Lampard today. I honestly don't think we can, unless it was him that shouted at Cucurella to press Militao. But we don't have no proof for that. So I can't just assume that. So I'd give Frank like a 5. Is that too high because of the lineup? But a lineup not looking great, what matters more is how it functions on the pitch. And it wasn't that bad. Like, we were the better team against Real Madrid, which doesn't get us anything because we lost 2-0 and lost 4-0 aggregate. But you know, Chalobah sliding, that's not Lampard's fault. Cucurella missing from 5 yards, that's not Lampard's fault either. He didn't even start Cucurella last week. Koulibaly had to get injured. Only then Cucurella came on. Only then Cucurella could make the mistake to get Chile sent off. So, like, you know, if it was anything under Lampard's control, Cucurella wouldn't have played last week and probably not today either. So, Aaron, do you think my 5 is way too high because of the team, or do you think because of how it played out, it's maybe reasonable? Maybe I'd go like 4.5 or something, but somewhere in that direction, I'm thinking anyway.
I'll just give him a 4 for every game that he's lost.
Nah, okay, yeah, I agree. Yeah, I'll back it. Any more elaboration on that?
No,
True, I actually forgot that they hit the post first half, so they had 2 chances first half. I did forget about that.
To be fair, that one that hit the post, I think Kepa would have had it anyway.
Yeah, he would have done. But they still hit the post, you know what I mean? There's still a chance.
But yeah, I give him 4 for every game he's lost.
But anything else that you'd like to elaborate on in terms of how we all thought the team was awful, and then we watched it and it was like, not actually that bad? I know you said this at the very beginning, but how much of that you're like, okay, maybe I do need to, because I was like, bring Potter back, you know, sack Lampard before kickoff when I saw the line. Well, it clearly didn't play badly enough for those reasonings.
Yeah, like on paper, seeing a 5-back with 4 centre mids looked absolutely horrific, and I still think that there was a lot of detriment in not playing more attackers because Havertz was so isolated and really didn't have the attacking threat that he needed with him to try and actually be a bit more potent. So I do still give him minus marks for that, but the lineup didn't work out too badly because we still played relatively decent. But ultimately the lack of attacking options on the pitch meant that it was pretty inevitable that we just weren't going to score a goal.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, that is important to elaborate. I don't think any of us are sat here that we played good or very good or anything of the sort. We were just decent. We were arguably slightly the better team. But obviously, as I've reiterated a few times in this stream now, because Madrid let us, because they could, because they won the first game 2-0. So obviously that will allow us more freedom, will allow us more control. Absolutely spot on. But I still have to compare it to last week, and it was certainly better than that. I have to say that. And Chelsea all the way. My name is literally, this is my channel. My channel is named after me. How can you misspell my name? It's not Laurenz. It's not my name, mate. If you're going to have a go at me, at least spell my name right. I mean, 5 for Lampard for playing a 3-6-1. Yeah, sure. I get that logic. But the way we would have scored goals by pressing, would that happen with any of our forwards if Mount isn't fit? And he's not even a forward anyway. But, would it happen with Felix? No. Would it happen with Mudryk in that position? Probably not. Would it happen with Sterling? Well, for flipping heck, damn no. Hakim Ziyech? No. Madueke isn't even registered. So now what? I mean, Aubameyang couldn't be picked today either, if people like to forget that one. It's a hard name to spell. Not really, is it? Do you know what I mean? I mean, more difficult than yours with 2 O's in a row, but Anyway, Bobby, do you agree with the 4, even if it's slightly for a bit of a laugh?
Yeah, before you even said anything, before Aaron said anything, I thought a 4. The result was bad. The lineup originally looked like a terrible, terrible lineup, but it played better than we thought it would. But the result was still shit. We didn't really come close to scoring a goal other than the Cucurella chance.
Maybe Kante in the first half.
Lampard wasn't awful today. I mean, he brought on attacking players. And granted, they did nothing. But I did like how we played. I liked how we moved Reece to center mid, and we were basically playing like a 3-2-5. Theoretically,
it's literally what Pep Guardiola plays nowadays.
Yeah,
Maybe
exactly. Reece played the John Stones role, which I thought was really interesting.
The worst bit is John Stones plays it better than Reece James does.
Hey, it's only because Reece is kind of banged up right now.
Because I was going to say, don't give Pep any ideas, because he might see them like, ooh, I might want a piece of that.
Yeah. But yeah, I just thought, a 4. A 4 is fine for Lampard. Obviously, it's not a good rating, but he wasn't awful.
Do we give him the 4 for the amount of losses, or 7 because that's the amount of games until he fucks off?
No. And also 7 is the amount of... Oh, no, by now I think it's more. I think now it's 8. But I think when we were 1-0 down, it was 7 goals conceded in the 4 games, so that's brilliant.
Yeah, we've conceded 2 goals every game.
Amazing. Fucking brilliant.
No, actually, Wolves was 1, wasn't it?
Yeah, Wolves was 1.
Yeah, so no, we have conceded. So yes, give him a 7.
Okay. No, he's not getting a 7. See, I absolutely get that idea, Chelsea, all the way, but we are now in hindsight, and you can't say that it would have worked better. So, fact of the matter is that you have to say, well, it worked all right. I understand your idea and go for it, and that was my thinking before the game as well. But then, if he goes for it and we lose 6-0 or 5-0 or 4-0, then you're going to give him a 0 all the same. So it's like, but yeah, we'll leave it at a 4. No weekend game for us this weekend, which is weird.
Good. Thank God.
Is it? Oh, I don't know.
We need a break, Laurenz. This has been rough.
It has been very rough. We need as much time off as we can get. And the best bit is we play next Wednesday, which is the City Arsenal game, so I don't have to watch Chelsea.
Mm-hmm. That is one way of looking at it. Also, not watch us get battered by Brentford. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
So, that is one. But yeah, we will be back on the weekend with a stream, even if we don't play. So talk about God knows what things, because let's just round it out here. It's 1:10 for me in the morning. We've nearly gone for 2 hours anyway. A shit season, a shit day, a shit tie against Madrid, 4-0 on aggregate. It's just miserable, really. It's just miserable. The fans everyone's going against each other. Everyone's going against the owners. Didier Drogba is sat on French TV slagging us off. I want to touch on this, by the way. I tweeted this. I took it down since because I can't really bother for the toxicity. But I still stand by what I said in a way, because so Drogba, I don't recognize my club anymore. He said that on French TV. And I'm like, I don't necessarily disagree with what Drogba said. But what I so drastically disagree with is choosing to say it on TV. 5 minutes before the game or whatever, or half an hour before the game. Like, you are a Chelsea Football Club legend. If you have something to say, if you have something like you have an issue with something, Frank Lampard is your mate. He's manager. Call him. I'm sure you could get Todd Boehly's phone number, Benadik Barley's phone number. If you're this big man, that sits there on TV and like, oh, I don't recognize my club anymore, then be big man enough to call them and tell them what you think, because you are a legend. And like, Ashley Cole and Frank Lampard at least turn up to try. You just sat on TV being a pundit slagging us off. What benefit do we get from that? The season is already bad enough. Do we know the fan base is already at each other's throats? Do we need, and at the owner's throats, do we need a legendary striker to sit there and make it worse? Like, I agree with what he's saying, but I just do not. I agree with him, but I just don't think it's like, you know, when influencers have influence, it's like an ex-professional footballer has his voice holds power. Choose not to say it on live TV. I think
he's not even the only one to have done it, though. There's so many. Even when you look back at, for example, the ex-players or ex-managers that we've had who have said, yeah, like the club, like Tuchel, for example, said, oh, the club now isn't the club that I managed, or players saying, oh,
obviously will be a bit salty for being sacked, right? So like that's, and he's also like, okay, Tuchel is great, wants the Champions League, but he's not Drogba.
Okay, then
for example, association with the club. I'm just saying, have your say, but say it internally. Tuchel can't just call Boehly and have a go. Drogba can if he wants to. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I guess.
That's just, yeah, I don't know what benefit. Like, Boehly's not going to change anything from Drogba saying this on live TV, right? So, I don't know. I don't know, Bobby, if you want to comment on that at all as well. Otherwise, I'm going to round it out.
No. It's everyone's just in a negative space right now, from former players, current players.
You know, that's also a fair point. You know, just to be honest, maybe I should slightly calm my criticism of it down, because I guess he's also a fan and he's just frustrated as we are. And I still think he should choose to do it internally rather than publicly on live TV. But maybe I should be a bit more understanding of him as a fan rather than just a legend, if that makes sense. Yeah. Fair enough. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're still here, appreciate you very, very much. Subscribe if you haven't already. Road to 20,000 subscribers is still on, so please do hit that subscribe button, hit the like button as well. If you haven't already, that'd be great. But yeah, we'll be back on the weekend and discuss whatever the flip else we're going to do. Because, I mean, it's going to be a rough end to the season. And then it's going to be a rough summer, because we're going to sign about 3 or 4 players max and sell 17, some of which we're not going to be happy with selling, some of us as individuals. Let's hope next season goes better. I just hope it doesn't take us another season to be half decent. Do you know what I mean? Because another season like this, my God, it will ruin me. But yeah, big shout out to you, Aaron. Big shout out to you, Bobby. Big shout out to Clutch as well, who was on earlier, of course. Check out their Twitters. Links are down in the description. Like I say, subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the check out my Twitter down in the description below. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Up to Chelsea, upwards and upwards, and we'll see you next time.
Good night, Laurenz.